Welcome back, my friends. We were debating if we should have Leanne give this intro, and she said no. So, yeah. Welcome back to another edition of LFG, your unfiltered franchise education podcast, where we try to bring franchisors and suppliers education from our industry. Hopefully, y'all are able to take away a few tidbits from each episode. Leanne Caruso is here with us, and I am Michael Hyam. Thank you again for joining us. Leanne, how's it going? How's your week been? Talk to me. Tell me. You wanted to switch up the intro, and here I am babbling away. What do you got?
You say that almost every episode to switch up the intro. No, we were just talking about how I'm not good at small talk. So
We were.
what? No, it's because it's funny because you and I are just not an odd combination, but a funny combination because you're the extrovert, I'm the introvert, you talk, I'm quiet. And so it's just funny when we try to make small talk for the people.
You're quiet.
Anyway, you had a fun yesterday.
I did.
Awkward. Tell me about your yesterday. You played ping
Oh,
pong,
my
and you went to
yesterday.
one of my favorite bands concert.
Sure. Oh, yes. So, actually, it was really cool. We had a franchise show and a national event party. We went downtown to a bar called, I think it was called Spin, and it was like a ping pong bar, and it was very cool. There's like ping pong tables everywhere, and so we had a real cool, fun team outing, and I had tickets to the Counting Crows, which was really fun for those of you that might be 20 and younger. The Counting Crows is like a band, an alternative band from the early 90s. I can't believe I'm saying that. I mean, when they came out, I was about 3 years old, but it was a lot of fun. Well, kind of like just the atmosphere was fun, and going to the concert was good. But I got to tell you, listening to the Counting Crows and loving them, and I have loved them. They are one of my favorite brands. That original album called August and Everything After that they launched in '93 is one of my all-time favorites. But when they got up on stage, they're good. All the old songs that 90% of us are there for, though, he was like, he kind of ad-libbed it and then made us sing it. And there was just no heart into it. There was literally no heart into it. He just, and then he changed it, and everything that we wanted to hear, it wasn't. Then when he got to the newer stuff, which I don't think they put out an album in God knows how long, but then he put some heart and feeling into it. I think my personal theory is that he's probably sang those songs 1 billion times, and he is so sick of singing it that he just it was kind of like, I was like, I just left leaving, I'll never go.
Yeah. But here's the thing, it's like some of these bands that are still touring, like are now touring after all this time, everybody's there for the old stuff. Nobody's there for the new stuff. And like, it drives me crazy. I went and saw Goo Goo Dolls a couple months ago, and it was just like no energy, no anything. I'm like, you have thousands of people here to hear all of your old stuff. And I get it, but if you don't like it, don't travel anymore. Don't do it. They're just like checking a box. I saw Counting Crows a few years ago, and I did not get that same sensation. So maybe he was having an off night, but that sucks because
I don't think so. I mean, maybe. Who knows? I mean, he had a solid 10,000 people there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, it was like almost like, okay, I'm just trying to make my money and shit. I don't know. Anyways,
that sucks.
We better jump to it.
All right. Do you want me to tell you who we have today?
Excuse me, I know who we have today. Aditya Varanasi, founder and CEO of Awarity. Did I butcher Aditya's last name?
No, I think you did good.
Oh, good. Well,
he knows I butcher his name regularly, so he's great. Really, really smart guy. He presented at he's part of the mastermind group, and they presented a whole session on technology and AI and marketing and digital marketing at our last mastermind in Nashville. Super, super smart guy. He comes from PepsiCo and Lay's and like really big name stuff, and they've started their own company. So it's gonna be a good one to talk to.
Super excited to have him on. Well, let's get to it. Here's what's growing on. Our first segment of the podcast. This segment is sponsored by Franchise Assembly, a franchise events company bringing resources and education to franchise brands and people. I will kick it off, Leanne.
Okay.
And this one, it's sad because anyways, I'll tell you about what I'm thinking. But Richmond's Broad Street Party City, in operation since 1994 under franchisee Steve Fram, is closing at month's end. As Party City shutters nearly 900 locations, including about 700 in the US, following its 2024 bankruptcy filing, this leaves just one store left in the state, reflecting a broader wave of an expected 45,000 US brick and mortar retail closures over the next 5 years. For franchisees, it's a stark reminder of how national financial collapse can trickle down to local operators, even longtime ones. Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday in the Uber. It's really sad because there's a Party City a few miles away from me, and it's gonzo. So I mean, it's been there forever and kind of a staple, and it's like, oh.
And you
But
just get everything on Amazon,
that's
Target.
exactly what my cousin said. She's like, listen, I just got everything on Amazon. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, some of these old dinosaurs like you, Leanne, you like to feel and touch things, and so you go to the
Oh,
stores.
I do not. I order everything on Amazon. I don't like to
What do
go
you have
anywhere.
growing on, Leanne?
Hulk Hogan. I thought this was fun. Interesting. Hulk Hogan's bid to revive Hooters through beer brand. So legend Hulk, oh my gosh, Liam. Wrestling legend Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer is aiming to acquire and reinvigorate Hooters, which filed for Chapter 11 in March. The offer includes purchasing franchise rights, real estate, and the brand itself, aimed at injecting new energy via social media and merchandise. But U.S. liquor laws and Hooters' $376 million debt and rival bids could complicate things. A headline grabbing bid with cultural cachet, but significant legal and financial hurdles remain.
Wow. Okay, look at that.
Interesting.
What
Well, we'll see if
so
Hulk
what
can do
what
it. Hulk and
what's the
Hooters.
what's the beer brand? Is it just
Then Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer.
okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, okay. That's what he used to play in the when he got into the ring. I am a real American. No, you don't know that song?
Mm,
No?
I wasn't a big wrestling fan.
All right, well, here's what else is growing on. Major legal clash between Hardys and operators over system standards. Oh, this is a tough one. Uh, Paragon Investment Group, operator
Paragon.
of 76 Hardee's locations in Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Florida, is suing parent company CKE Restaurants, resisting demands to stay open evenings and implement digital upgrades like loyalty programs and delivery. They argue these requirements, along with undisclosed technology and loyalty fees, threaten their financial stability and claim a double standard versus corporate owned outlets. This high stakes dispute highlights franchisor franchisee tension around system mandates, technology integration, and transparency. That's a huge franchisee though.
That is a huge
And
franchise.
those aren't small footprints either.
No,
They're pretty big there. I wonder, if like is it that they do those for corporate already, I guess, some of that stuff, like he's having a problem with delivery and staying open late.
I don't know.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like something that can't be figured out. But what do I know?
There's probably a bigger story to it.
Yeah, there is. I love Carl's Jr. to be honest. It's
You do?
yeah, of course.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Seem like your vibe.
What?
It doesn't seem like your vibe.
Of course. Oh, like I've never actually been to one of their restaurants, but I mean, I love the people.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Anyway, I only mean I haven't been to what. Hey, don't put me out there. I'm just saying I'm in Canada. I've never really
I
seen
know.
Portland.
I
I've
know.
seen them. I remember visiting out when I used to go out west to LA. That I think they must have
Yeah.
started out west.
We have
Um,
Hardee's over here. We
do
have,
you?
yeah. Well, in the Southeast, it's more Hardee's than it is Carl's Jr.
Oh, okay. So they are from the west, no?
I think so, yeah. I mean, same
Anyways,
company.
all right.
Anyway, go ahead.
If you want to share what's going on in your world, send an email to podcast@franchiseassembly.com. Leanne,
All
take it
right.
away.
Before we get to our franchise royals, do you have a franchise royal picked out?
Of course I do.
Okay, I'm gonna give you time if you don't. This segment is sponsored by Franchise Marketing and
Wow.
Technology Assembly. Join us in Tampa on November 3rd for the Marketing and Technology Assembly. We just deemed this Tampa Franchise Week back to back with the Tampa Franchise Show. We have Franchise Marketing and Tech Assembly, and then we have Hello Mastermind Fall Retreat. It's a one-day event where franchise marketers and tech leaders come together to share what's working, what's next, and how to stay ahead in 2026. If you're shaping the future of franchise marketing, this is the room to be in. Visit our website at franchiseassembly.com. All right,
All
franchise
right.
royals. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay.
Who's your franchise royal?
As a matter of fact, I am going to name two franchise royals. I
Okay,
am going to say Gregory Cook, and Jackie Stillwell. You know
nice.
Greg Cook, Leanne?
Oh, Greg.
Yeah, and you know
Just,
Susan,
I know Susan.
Jackie's Susan's
Yeah.
daughter.
Oh, very
Uh,
nice.
Greg and Jackie are from the Entrepreneur Source, and I have to just call them out because they are phenomenal. They are a avid supporter of Franchise Assembly and the National Franchise Show. They're actually a presenting sponsor of the National Franchise Show. They speak at all of our events, including Let's Grow and all the franchise shows. And I have to say that being such avid supporters and financial contributors and being such great sports, I might have whipped them in the head with a dodgeball. And so I'm just going to say, guys, I love you. And can't thank you enough for your support. And, Greg is just, he's, Greg, I mean, he used to work with the IFA and he came in and he's just been a great supporter when he started with entrepreneurs. So I mean, they've been supporters even before he came in, but the whole combination, they have a great team. And Jackie is an up and comer. She is phenomenal. She was in Houston, and I told her, hey, if you want me to do any intros, to some of the franchisors, let me know. And she absolutely did not need me. She went in there and Jackie and Greg, we love you guys. And Leanne, who do you have?
Yeah, that's great. I haven't met Jackie yet. I did see Greg, Susan, her mom, and Marissa at the summer board meeting last week in Vail.
Oh, nice. How was
So
the summer board meeting?
it was great.
Vail, Colorado, is it?
Yes. Well, the summer board meeting was in Beaver Creek. I spent a lot of time in Vail though. It's beautiful. I'd never been.
Oh,
Really, really nice. I was at the Supplier Forum Advisory Board meeting. And
nice.
okay, my royal is Stephen Inglefield. If you guys haven't seen Stephen previously of AC Inc., is now the president and founder of the Consultant Exchange. And I did a demo with him the other day. It's really cool software. And basically, it's helping you find brokers easily without, like all brokers, any broker, all brokers. Without going through different various broker networks. Pretty cool. Very cool. So congratulations to Stephen on launching the Consultant Exchange with her partners, and can't wait to see where that goes. All right.
Nice.
So before we talk to Aditya, our show and tell segment, please take a moment to learn about our podcast sponsor and our national print sponsor and our favorite Karen, because we haven't mentioned her yet, at Subtle Strauss.
Franchisors love Subtle Strauss because we protect their brand standard across all marketing channels. Z's love our marketing platform because they can customize, print, download, and mail brand right collateral for their local market in minutes. Want to see how it works? Connect with me, Karen Wenning, on LinkedIn.
All right. So our next segment, of course, is show and tell. For those of you that follow, know this is the meat and potatoes of the LFG podcast. Show and tell, of course, a segment where we have industry leaders, experts share insights and ideas about what's going on in their segment of franchising. And today we have Aditya Varanasi. I hope I got that right.
Did great.
Founder and CEO of Awarity. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, first off, thank you so much for having me on today. Really appreciate it. Just a little about myself. My background is actually in corporate America. So I spent 14 years at PepsiCo in product development and brand marketing roles. And I left PepsiCo to join a private equity-backed startup. And so it was my first time having to try to figure out how to market a small business without these 8-figure budgets that I was used to. And so as we got into it, I realized it's really hard when you're trying to complete local advertising on a minimal budget. And the biggest challenge that I uncovered was a lot of these businesses have budgets of just $1,000 to $2,000 a month total. And when you start factoring in the expertise you need to run a campaign on Google, run a campaign on Meta, run a campaign on connected TV or banner ads, you have to hire expertise to run those campaigns. And that expertise isn't always cheap. And so I left that private equity group and started Awarity, and our mission is to make world-class advertising accessible to everyone. And we've basically developed an AI-based platform that can replace a media agency for businesses where a media agency may not make sense and deploy omni-channel advertising at a local level. When I started it, I knew franchise would be a great target for this, but I had no idea how well suited the technology would be, because now with franchise brands, we can create hundreds of micro campaigns, one for every location, with the exact budget, targeting, creative, and localized franchise level reporting at scale without adding any additional fees. And so it's been really exciting just to work with so many entrepreneurs in the franchise space that are making things happen. Small businesses employ over half people in this country. They're over half the GDP. Franchise is a huge part of that. And so to be able to provide them a solution to grow is something that makes it really exciting to come into work every day.
That's really cool that you noticed that in corporate America, or when you went to this PE-backed startup, that you realized what a problem is, especially in franchising. So you mentioned that you're world-class advertising accessible to everyone. So I come from an agency background. I used to own my own agency. And so you're right, the expertise that's involved in executing campaigns that are on a strategic level costs money. Otherwise, it doesn't work, right? So how did you figure out the balance and for keeping that promise and also to be able to provide low cost advertising
Yeah.
options?
Look, I think there's two parts to it. I think the first part was recognizing what an agency is going to do that we're never going to do. Agencies are fantastic at helping with customer research, insights, brand identity, creative design, coming up with ways to, reach new people with strategies that didn't exist before, and compel that target customer, and helping bring it, turn them into sales opportunities. But that's just one piece of it. What I found was a lot of those agencies were also trying to deploy media, which is a completely different skill set. And a lot of times, what I found was the brand, either through their agency or through their own work, had a pretty clear idea of who their target was, what they're trying to accomplish, what their key points of differentiation are. They had a pretty good creative identity, brand standards. They just needed to deploy the media. So first off, we decided to focus on that side of it because the front side requires that agency expertise. Then we looked at kind of all the things that drive cost when it comes to media buying. And the biggest one being the cost of hiring people with hands-on keyboards to program and run campaigns. And so we started there with the focus on developing an AI-based software platform that could create and optimize campaigns without needing to hire people. And that allowed us to offer a lower price point. But the other things we've done, we look at our selling experience. We don't necessarily have a big outbound sales team, because when you do that, that then ultimately has to be added to the price. And so we use a lot of strategic partnerships, like the Masterminds group, like others, where we can meet people that we may be able to help without the traditional commissions or high costs that we'd have to add to the media to make the business model work. So we kind of looked at every line of the P&L and how a media company works and said, where can we use software and technology to do it at a lower cost so that we could pass on that lower cost to our clients?
Very cool.
Amazing. And so moving on, I guess our next question is a core differentiator seems to be combining hyperlocal audience targeting with creative automation. Can you talk us through a typical client's campaign process, barring cost?
Yeah, look, I think we work with franchise brands in three different ways. One could be a national campaign, and I'll talk really quickly about how that works. On a national campaign, a franchise brand may only have a finite budget, 50,000, 25,000. We have some that have budgets as low as 10,000 a month. And as you know, you can't cover the entire US with that. So what we'll do in those cases is we'll ask for their historical sales data. We'll ask for the data on their service areas for each franchisee, and our data scientists will conduct some analysis and say, hey, with this budget and with the people you want to reach, we recommend we target the top 2 zip codes for every franchisee. And that way, those limited resources are going to where they could have the highest impact, and every franchisee is getting representation within the national campaign. The second, which is even more common, is franchise adoption. And in that case, the corporate office will tell us, this is our target customer, here's our creative brand standards, here's kind of our promotional calendar throughout the year. We'll build a creative library, and then we'll create an adoption portal where franchisees can sign in, pick which package they want, and we'll work with the corporate office on the package and the pricing and which channels should be included in each package. And we'll manage that seamlessly. The corporate office can see what everyone's doing. The franchisee can see everything with their specific campaign in our platform. And then the third is managing co-op programs. So there's instances where the corporate office says, hey, we can manage 50 cents on every dollar. And so we also manage that through our portal where a franchisee can sign in, and then we'll help reconcile the billing and the invoicing between corporate and the franchisee and give everybody the appropriate access to see what's happening, while again adhering to corporate guidance on creative, targeting, and overall campaign strategy.
So I know a lot of your platform is top of funnel, right? Which is hard to explain to franchisees the value in getting people in the top of the funnel and down. And so a lot of it obviously is a compelling message and getting to touch as many people as possible, as many times as possible. So how does your tech kind of optimize for all three of those: reach, frequency, and compelling message at the same time?
Yeah, no, great question. And I think taking a step back, part of my experience at PepsiCo that I really struggled with when I left was that top of funnel. When I was running the Cheetos brand, we saw that when we had a pricing discount, say we discounted Cheetos $1, we could measure how much lift we had. How many more units did we sell when it was sold for $1 versus when it was at full price? And as a result, PepsiCo ended up investing a lot in pricing discounts, which is a low funnel tactic. But we engaged this company that performed a really complex marketing mix analysis and looked at the interaction of all the channels. And what we actually found is we got better lift on that same pricing discount when Cheetos had national TV running versus when we didn't have TV running. It actually led to this huge strategic shift at PepsiCo that we uncovered on the Cheetos brand. But what that told me was a lot of times we think bottom of funnel, we need purchase, we need leads. But at the end of the day, we're trying to persuade a consumer to take an action they haven't taken before. So imagine you go up to your best friend and you're trying to convince your best friend to do something they haven't done before. Even if you do it in a one-to-one conversation with a close friend, that can be hard and you're not guaranteed success. Now imagine doing that as a brand. You're trying to get them to try a product or service they haven't tried before. And that's why the top of funnel is so critical is if we pause right now and I said, hey, you need a new fridge right now, which brands are you considering? We all probably have 2 or 3 brands that come top of mind right away. That's because they built the top of funnel to have that high awareness. And what we've seen with the folks we're working with is when they add top of funnel advertising, it moves the needle on everything else happening below that. People become more responsive to that paid search ad. People become more responsive to email or other campaigns that are in place. And so, but the challenge has been, to your point, it's expensive. And it's expensive because a lot of times it's not as efficient. And so some of the things we do is we employ targeting tactics to ensure the media is only going to the people most likely to buy. So rather than a DMA level buy, we'll help isolate specific zip codes based on the desired demographics or where the local franchises had the most success. So, that's one way to say, hey, if you're competing with somebody that has huge budgets and they're covering their entire DMA, well, if you're only covering 1/10 of that DMA, you could spend 1/10 of what they're spending and have the exact same presence where it matters most. So that's the first way we apply it is figuring out who you're going to reach and then making sure we're channeling the dollar set. And that also layers into the various targeting techniques we could use with demographic targeting, contextual targeting, other types of targeting that are available. Then we built a media planning model for this approach where we can model what the budget needs to be at an appropriate frequency, which a lot of times we say really needs to be north of 2. 2's kind of low for prospecting, especially for brands with lower awareness, but we like to set a minimum benchmark of 2. That's where we've seen at least a good level of effectiveness. Probably don't need to be higher than 6 to 8 on prospecting. And that lets us define a budget recommendation because now we know exactly who we're targeting, how many people there are, and then how many times we want to reach them. We can develop a budget range to say it's going to cost you this much. This is your budget range. What makes sense for you. Then, of course, the compelling message is in partnership with the corporate office. What makes the product stand out? What gets people to try? What gets people to just be intrigued to remember the brand and helping whittle it down to those 1 to 3 things that are the biggest reason for somebody to care about why your brand makes a difference. And helping them simplify that message using their existing standards is a part of that, presenting that compelling message. So now we're reaching the right people, making sure we're reaching enough of them. We're letting the budgets, we're looking at frequency to help manage the right budget spend. And then we're working with them to simplify that messaging to ensure we're getting the most compelling message possible, with our goal being, let's just get new people to the website. They may not click, but we see consistently with these campaigns, we're driving 30 to 80 to 90% increase in organic search as the right people are seeing the brand, 2 to 6 times a month.
Yeah, and then you can do follow-up retargeting and all of that good stuff. Just get them to
Exactly.
the website. How do you educate franchisees or franchisors, like sometimes C-suite, not necessarily always the CMOs get it, marketing teams get it, on the importance of top of funnel? Do you have any, I'm going sideways here, but
No, look, it's a good question, and I think you know I'm gonna vent a little. I think Facebook and Google have done a huge disservice to the marketing industry over the last 15 years. They created this completely made up metric called the cost per conversion and attribute it all to one channel. And all of a sudden, people think that's what success means because that's an easy to understand KPI. But I equate it to like football. So, and this is the conversation we'll have. The way we educate is we just try to have an honest conversation, explain where we're coming from, why it's the right thing, and then we tell them we're very honest about these are the KPIs we can influence. These are the KPIs we can't influence. And if they choose to want those KPIs we can influence, then we decide, hey, this may not be the right partnership for now, but we're always happy to help. But we're always very straightforward with the KPIs we can influence. And I go back to this football analogy that we use in the conversations. If a coach looked at their play sheet and looked at all the plays and said, what percentage of times when we run this play do we score a touchdown? The quarterback sneak or the fullback dive is probably going to be at the top of that list. So half the time they run it, they probably score, but that's because they run it on the goal line. They run it right when they're about to get into the end zone. What about all those other plays that got them from the other side of the field to that point to score? And that's really what that top half of the funnel is about. It's not about getting them into the end zone. It's about getting more people into scoring position. And then you use those conversion channels to pull through. The second part of the conversation is around there's always only a finite number of people searching. If you go look at Google search volume and then you even normalize it for a local service area, you'll be astonished at how few searches there are for even categories that you might think are really big. And so if you're relying on that for growth, you're only going to ever see a finite amount of customers. And it's going to be a small subset of your potential customers. If you're bringing new people to your site, you're now creating a bigger pool of folks that are going to drive that search and ultimately become customers. And so the only way to accelerate growth is to bring more people in that funnel, and investing the top and middle funnel strategies are really the only way to do that. And then we counter it with the third part is now we can make it affordable. It used to be really expensive, but because we could be very targeted and very efficient with it, you can now do it for a small fraction of what you might have spent before. And part of what we tell them is don't pick a budget that's high. Pick a budget you're comfortable sticking with for 6 months, for 12 months, because that's when you're going to see the greatest impact. We tell them we don't want you spending your entire budget in 1 month because you're going to be disappointed. We'd rather you spend less and do it for a longer period of time and stay very targeted, because that's where that snowball effect starts to take place. And I think those 3 points with so many folks they've appreciated that kind of the honesty and candor of it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yes, totally. And excuse my language because I'm always on the Fran Dev side. Leanne's the marketing person. So if I'm not saying this proper, just correct me. But so you've got the deal. The marketing is flowing. What kind of marketing mix modeling or measurement tools are embedded in Awarity to help SMBs understand the real ad impact of this spend, so to speak?
Yeah. There's really 3 parts to that. Actually, there's 4. One is your basic campaign metrics, where you can see impressions, you can see reach, you can see frequency. You can even see conversions if we're tracking conversions. Not that that's a KPI we ever sell or anchor to. You can see it. You can even see on a map where those impressions are going, where people are clicking on the ads. Not that even clicks are the most important metric, but you can see all that in the platform. That's kind of the first layer, is kind of your base campaign metrics. The next layer, which we rolled out about a year or so ago, is a metric we call indirect website traffic. So that's seeing how many people saw the ad and chose to visit your site within 30 days of seeing the ad. That's been a really transformative metric to bake in, because people can now see, wow, this is actually generating traffic, and they can see which targeting tactics are generating traffic, which zip codes that traffic is coming from. That's been really exciting. The third phase is now additional impact beyond that. We're running this offline. We have an active R&D project to bring it into the platform in the future, is a Google Analytics analysis that our data science team has developed, where we can isolate in-campaign and out-of-campaign areas and look at how organic search volume has changed for the areas we're targeting versus the areas we're not. And that's where I reference people are seeing 30 to 80 to 90% increase in organic search for those in-campaign areas, or from the pre-campaign period to the post-campaign period. And then the last is we are working on a marketing mix model that will be embedded into the platform. It's going to take a little bit of time, and I'd like to get a few more ad channels into the platform as we do that. But that will be where you're going to start to see which channels are bringing you new people to your site, which channels are bringing people back to your site, which channels are ultimately pulling them through to conversion, to give them a little more of that enterprise experience, the things we did at PepsiCo, but make it accessible to a local franchise.
That's really cool. Will the franchisor, maybe not ready yet, but will the franchisor be able to have roll-up reporting, and then the franchisee has their own dashboards as well?
Exactly. Yep.
That's so cool. All right, let's
And
talk
that we have
about
now. That we have right now. The franchisor can get the roll-up reporting with them. Yeah.
Oh,
But
great.
not on the marketing mix, because that's not in the platform. We're doing marketing mix offline. We're testing it with some folks offline.
Mhm.
But that'll probably take a little bit of time to get in the platform because you can imagine there's so many edge cases on that.
Yeah. I know connected TV has become pretty big and it's now in like 80% of the households.
Yeah.
So how are you guys using that trend and making it affordable to franchisees?
Yeah, no, we actually started pushing connected TV in 2020. As COVID hit, more
Mm,
people were at home, streaming really started to explode. We've always had access, but we've seen challenges with reach. And all of a sudden, overnight, reach was off the charts to the fact that you just pointed out that over 80%, I think it's closer to 90% of households now are streaming. It
mm,
surpassed linear TV. And the beauty of it is you can precisely target. Like if you had to run a cable buy, you'd have to buy the whole DMA and you'd have to guess what programs your target audience is watching. Here, we can isolate zip codes and we can target very specific household profiles to serve. And so connected TV really offers an opportunity to level the playing field. So going back to the old example, you may be competing with a brand that's spending a lot more money than you and covering the entire US. But if you isolate not only the zip codes, but the specific households you want to reach, you can have actually a higher presence in those households than the national brand and spend significantly less doing that. So connected TV to me opens an opportunity to be a great equalizer for emerging brands in particular, or brands that really want to maximize the impact of their marketing dollars.
that's super cool.
That's great. And so changing it up a little bit with all data privacy, evolving and AI at the forefront. What are you guys doing to ensure compliance and
Yeah.
performance?
Look, I think candidly, we've been a little bit ahead of it in that in programmatic advertising, when I started this business back in 2016, almost everybody was relying on third-party data. And what I saw was the third-party data doubled or tripled the cost of the CPM. It never showed double or triple the response rate. And it was candidly a barrier to entry for a lot of folks. 97% of US households are on the internet. Two-thirds of that time is on websites. You can reach almost everyone through a website, but yet banner ads were perceived as ineffective. We shifted from that and we focused solely on zip code level targeting, contextual targeting, and curating lists of domains that over-index with particular demographics. And we found that's a much, much lower cost way of reaching target customers and getting more reach. And it's actually proven to be more accurate. So we actually moved away from reliance on that third-party data very early, and it's worked out very well. We are working on more ways to integrate first-party data. So right now, you can go into our platform, you could upload a list of your customers, and we could retarget them. You could segment it, and you could retarget them to bring them back for different products, features, services. And some of the new channels we're looking at integrating will also allow that even further as well, like texting and email and other things. And so I believe the future is going to be heavily around first party data and then utilizing non-third party targeting techniques like contextual and domain lists.
That's great. Yeah, you guys definitely seem to be ahead of, I think you got ahead of it and everybody's like trying to catch up now. So good on you. So with all of that said, I'm sure you've got a success story, and especially in franchising, you're breaking into in the franchise space over the last year or two, if I'm not correct. But and so in franchising, everybody's like, well, I don't want to do it if it didn't, like I want to know if it worked for somebody else before they jump in. So do you have any success stories that you can share? Or one
Yeah,
that's stands out?
yeah, no, I appreciate you asking. Look, I think at the end of the day, we like to think hopefully everybody that works with us views it as a success story because it is a tailored strategy. We align on the success KPIs and then we anchor to those success KPIs. But what I'm particularly proud of is we've been looking to create an advantaged paid meta solution that's focused a little more on lead gen. And so we partnered with garage experts, Brooke, Marissa, Ryan, and team, and they were phenomenal partners, just giving us great feedback, great insight. And they saw not only an increase in leads and lead quality, but they also saw a huge increase in organic search volume.
Mm.
And with that, after we ran the pilot group, it was really exciting to see how much of their system, within the first month, another 25% of their system hopped on, and new locations seem to be jumping in month over month as their current contracts expire. But I think what I'm most excited about with that was really just the partnership. They helped us learn. We learned a lot, and we took their feedback and guidance very seriously on how we architect our product experience. To now, we're in the final stages of where you'll have Meta fully integrated into our platform.
Mm, that's super cool. Yeah, Brooke speaks very highly of her experience with you guys and with the product and the team and the thoughtfulness and the strategy and all of that stuff. So
Yeah,
she's a
they're
good
great. They're
advocate.
great
She's
to
a good
work with. Yeah.
advocate to have. Yeah, that's awesome.
Um, Talk to me about misconceptions. What common misconceptions do SMBs have about advertising? Let's say budget,
Yeah.
timing, expectations. What do we need to know?
Look, I think the biggest is when you look at things as a business and you say, I need leads. I need to do something that works, or I need something that has leads. That in itself is a misconception because at the end of the day, we're all consumers. And so if we all think back to how we buy things, that's what marketing should be aiding, is the way people buy things. And so there's this misconception out there that I can turn on a channel and it's going to work and I'm going to grow my business just from adding one channel is a misconception unto itself. But the idea of taking a step back and saying, hey, when I remodeled that room in my house, or painted that room, or renovated my garage, or whatever those things were, what were my steps? Where did I start? What were the things I looked at? How did what made me finalize a decision on direction? When you start putting it through the lens of the customer journey, that's where you'll find a lot more success than saying, what is it that gets me leads tomorrow? And that's a really hard thing to embrace because small businesses need revenue to survive. A lot of them need to get those sales to survive. And so I think finding a balance of what are the things that you can do to immediately get leads and get business, that including being creative on how you network locally and shaking hands and going to events, while also investing in a marketing system that can consistently bring you new customers. That to me is the biggest misconception. Think of your marketing as a way to meet customers on that journey versus as a system to just get immediate sales.
Yeah, for sure. So for franchisors or founders who have tight budgets, welcome to franchising. Everybody's got a tight budget. What's the one metric or mindset that they should change and or like what should they focus on first? Like you know, it could be the franchisee side, but it could also the franchisor.
Yeah, I think brands go through a couple of stages. You're probably referring to the second stage, but like look, for folks that are just getting going and money's really tight, we tell them sometimes just focus on the bottom of the funnel.
Mm,
Focus on networking, focus on the channels that are truly bottom of funnel to most likely get you leads because you don't have the time and you don't have the resources to invest in something that's going to take a little longer. So we always start there. But I think as you have limited budget, but as you're growing and you've proven you have a sales and marketing system that can work, look a lot at the sources of your web traffic. And I'm not referring to just UTM codes. How much
mhm.
organic search volume are you seeing? How much direct traffic volume are you seeing? How does that correlate to your investments in ad channels? You may put up a billboard. You don't know if that billboard's working unless it's driving new search. And the only way you know it's driving new search is to dig in with Google Analytics. I think Google Analytics in a lot of ways is a hidden gold mine of insight that's right. It's free and it's right at your fingertips. And that's why it's one of the reasons we offer that just as a part of working with folks is because you can learn so much about how advertising campaigns are impacting your business beyond just sales. Like if a product has a 4-month purchase cycle, you can't run a 1-month campaign and know if it's working or not. You just reach people for 25% of that purchase cycle. But Google Analytics can tell you, hey, is it bringing new people in to start that journey or not?
It's good.
This has been a wealth of information. This has been fantastic. Looking ahead, how do you see Awarity evolving over the next 3 to 5 years, especially as AI and measurement technologies mature?
Yeah, look, we're always looking to see what's emerging and what's available and what are things big companies are doing that we can make accessible to smaller brands. I'd envision in 3 to 5 years, you're going to see even more ad channels in our platform. You're going to see even more measurement techniques. We're experimenting with something that might even be able to get more location analysis that attribute foot traffic. Not sure it'll work yet. We're testing it. But the current solutions in market, for example, have too small a sample size to work for local franchise businesses. It can work maybe in aggregate at the corporate office, but not necessarily for each franchise location. So we're looking at a solution where that may actually work on a smaller scale. And so I would envision we're just going to stay at the forefront of what's available and where can we implement automation and technology so that brands can get access to the channels that move the needle, make it really easy to deploy it and reach the prospective customers they want, and have new, different ways to understand the impact of the campaign that go above and beyond just sales and conversions.
Awesome. I can't wait to see what you guys do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's been very cool getting to know you guys and getting to know your business over the course of the last this year, I guess. But
Yeah.
it is really neat and how people are adopting what you do. And I mean, personally, as a marketer, I love the fact that you have top of funnel. It's just so hard to explain, especially with tight budget. So I love that this is becoming a conversation and part of the marketing mix, especially in franchising on both on the local level and the national level. So, all right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. How do people find you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, visit us at awarity.com, awarity.com. You can book a demo, you can call, you can email, whatever's easiest for you. And, we look forward to just learning more about what your goals are and seeing if we can help.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Aditya.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
That was great. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
That was amazing. Love it. Such a wealth of information. Most of it well over my head. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, I told you he's smart.
He is very smart. Love that. That was great. But yes, so on to our next segment, which is Franchise Mingle. So many events for the fall coming up. Wow. So we've got a bunch of franchise shows. We've got Denver, Detroit, Atlanta, Phoenix, and Tampa all happening September through to November. And in the spring, we've got a whole bunch of new cities that the franchise show is going through to New York, New Jersey, Dallas, Cleveland, Houston, Chicago, Orlando, New England, which is going to be in Providence, Virginia, DC, and Portland. But before we get to those spring shows, we have got a bunch of assemblies, conferences. We've got the Franchise Marketing and Tech Assembly happening November 3rd for our Tampa Franchise Week. It is back-to-back with the Tampa Franchise Show, which is going to happen on the Saturday, the Sunday. Then the Tech Assembly happens Sunday night through to Monday, which is back-to-back with our Hello Mastermind Fall Retreat, which happens Tuesday and Wednesday. So a full week of franchise fun in Tampa. If you want to know more about that, just reach out to us. And of course, we have our 2 Let's Grow conferences, which are coming up quickly. The Toronto event is happening December 3rd and 4th, and the Dallas event, January 27th through to the 29th in Dallas-Fort Worth. So a lot going on. If you haven't registered yet, you better get to it. This episode is brought to you by Subtle Strauss, Franchise Marketing and Tech Assembly, Franchise Assembly, and the National Franchise Show. For those of you that stuck around this long, thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you in a couple of weeks. Leanne, say goodbye.
Bye.